8 times when villains from cartoons were right. Hit like and let's begin. Every hero has their own truth, but every villain has it too. Sometimes it's enough to dim the ominous music and remove the villainous laughter, and it turns out the guy was actually making sense. And there's nothing to argue against. Last time we already analyzed a whole company of such characters. Today there will be a new 8. And this time, we're going in ascending order, from number 8 to number 1, where a villain will await us whom you won't be able to out-argue no matter how much you want, because he's, to put it mildly, inevitable. Let's start with the most underrated guy in a yellow tracksuit, Vector. Thicker than a porthole and a tracksuit the color of a school bus. Meet Vector. At first glance, a walking joke. At second glance, he's the only character in the film who actually saw his villainous plan through to the end. See for yourself. Gru dreams of stealing the moon the whole film. And who steals it in the end? Vector. Gru can barely drag the shrink ray, and Vector takes it right out of his hands, effortlessly. This guy has in his arsenal a gun that shoots piranhas and a gun that shoots squids. He doesn't just talk about villainy, he does it. And now the main thing. Vector is the son of Mr. Perkins, the owner of the Bank of Evil. That is, he grew up in the shadow of a man for whom only results matter, not his own son. A cold father who looks at you like a bad investment. And here's the kid bending over backwards, inventing, stealing, building a fortress, and all for one thing, so that Dad would finally nod and say, "Good job." And let's honestly compare the results. Gru spent years building a reputation as the greatest villain, surrounded himself with an army of minions and an entire underground laboratory. And Vector? Vector is a kid who alone, by the power of his own brains, stole the main prize from this greatest villain right from under his nose. If we judge by deeds, not by charisma, then the title of best villain in the film rightfully belongs to him. Vector isn't a villain. This is an eternally underrated straight-A student whom everyone laughs at for his appearance, but who is smarter than half the room. His problem isn't that he's evil. His problem is that all his life he lacked one approving glance. And, speaking of those whose own parents didn't accept them, meet the next hero, whom the family not only didn't praise, but threw out the door. Lord Shen. Kung Fu Panda 2, a snow-white peacock, elegant to the tips of his feathers, theatrical like an opera villain, and at the same time the only one in all of China who understood where the world was heading. Lord Shen didn't just want power. Lord Shen saw the future before everyone else. While the whole country believed in Kung Fu, in harmony, in strength and beautiful kicks, Shen looked at his family's festive fireworks and thought, what if this isn't a toy? What if this is a weapon? And he was right. He invented the cannon. He understood what the monks refused to admit, that technology beats tradition. You can train for 20 years and bring your body to perfection, and then lose to a person who simply pulled the trigger. The entire second film is essentially the good guys' panic before a weapon they have no answer to. Shen didn't invent the threat. Shen created it himself, because he understood that the threat is inevitable and that it's better to control the threat yourself. And here's what else gets you. Shen wasn't born a monster. He was born a child whom his parents loved very much, right up until the moment he showed them something they didn't understand. In 1 second, our brilliant son turned into a threat that needs to be sent away. Imagine what someone feels when their own family records them as a monster for being too smart and too far-sighted. Later, it was predicted that a warrior of black and white color would destroy him. But the whole irony is that it was exactly the fear of this prophecy that turned Shen into a monster. They made him a villain by treating him like a villain. And speaking of those who saw the problem before everyone else, but whom no one wanted to listen to, let's go lower, to the lizard who alone tried to save an entire city. Randall Boggs, purple, scaly, able to become invisible, and forever standing one step below the company's main favorite. Randall Boggs, and this is a story about a guy who toiled, but the bonus for some reason was taken by another. But let's for a second forget that he kidnapped a child. That's very bad. Let's look at what drove him. In Monstropolis, yes, that's exactly what this city was called. There was a very real energy crisis. Children stopped being afraid. Fewer and fewer screams. Less and less energy, the city literally on the verge of a blackout. And while the management sat with their paws folded and pretended everything was fine, Randall was the only one who took the problem seriously and built a machine for extracting energy. Yes, His solution was monstrous. Kidnapping children and pumping screams out of them isn't a solution, no questions there. But the diagnosis itself was correct. And you know what's the funniest? The film, in the end, confirms Randall's rightness. Energy really did stop being enough. The city really did have to urgently change the whole system. They just found a different solution, laughter, instead of screams. But Randall was the first to see the problem. I've been number 2 in this company for too long. In this one phrase is all of Randall. This isn't a villainous manifesto about taking over the world. This is a cry from someone who got tired of being second to the one who gets everything for free. And here's what's offensive. Sully received admiration simply because he was big, charming, and naturally talented. And Randall slaved away, trained, invented, and still remained in the shadows. Sometimes a villain becomes not the most evil, but the most tired of injustice. And speaking of those overshadowed by someone prettier, meet the bird who was literally thrown out in the trash, a mangy cockatoo with crazy eyes and a craving for drama at the level of a Broadway musical. In the film, he's a hired hand of smugglers who hunts for Blue and Jewel, a villain like any villain, until you learn his past. Nigel was once a real star, a beautiful bird on the television screen, a public favorite. And then the producers found a younger and cuter bird and threw Nigel out without any pity. It all ended in 1 second because a brighter little face appeared. I used to be beautiful, and now look at me. Yes, his hatred toward all beautiful birds is absolutely unhealthy, redirected anger. Blue and Jewel aren't guilty of anything, but the wound itself. The wound is real and painfully understandable. Show business raised him to the peak, squeezed him out, and threw him on the scrap heap as soon as he stopped bringing in ratings. Nigel isn't just a villain. This is a warning about what happens when your value to the world is measured exclusively by how cute you are on camera. And speaking of those from whom the world took everything, let's dive to the very bottom of the ocean, to a father who lost his son. Shark Tale. A huge white shark with the accent of a New York mobster and the manners of a godfather. Don Lino, the main gangster of the reef, and the whole film he chases our hero Oscar, seemingly a typical mobster villain. But let's remember how it all began. Oscar, a small fish, a loser and a liar, happened to be nearby when Don Lino's son died under an anchor. And instead of telling the truth, Oscar appropriated someone else's death for himself, declared himself the Shark Slayer, a hero who defeated a terrible predator, became a star of the reef, basked in fame, money, and attention. And all this on a lie about the death of someone else's child. And now look at this through Don Lino's eyes. You're a father. Your son is dead. And some imposter walks around the whole city bragging that he's the one who killed him and collects applause for it. Any father in this situation would be beside himself. Lino isn't a maniac. Lino is a grieving parent who wants justice for his child, and here the whole story turns upside down. The villain mourns his deceased son, and the hero turns out to be an ordinary swindler who built a career on someone else's tragedy. Are we supposed to root for Oscar? For a guy who lied to the face of an entire city for fame? Lino was formidable, dangerous, and yes, a criminal. But in this particular story, the moral rightness was clearly not on the side of the one the audience was clapping for. And speaking of those who turned out to be right while everyone admired the wrong person, let's rise from the ocean to the palace, where a fool rules and a villain does all the work. Jafar, Aladdin, a vizier with a cobra-shaped staff, a goatee, and perhaps the best villainous laugh in all of Disney classics.
Oh boy, he's cracked. He's gone nuts. Jafar! Jafar! Get a grip!
Jafar wants the lamp, the throne, and power. No argument. But before closing the case, let's honestly look at those against whom he wanted to take this power. The Sultan of Agrabah is a good-natured man, but let's say it directly, completely incompetent as a ruler. A grown man who plays with toy animals while his vizier carries all the real governance of the state on himself. Who actually keeps Agrabah afloat? Not the Sultan who giggles over figurines, but Jafar, who understands laws, politics, and the affairs of the kingdom. And now the uncomfortable truth about the hero. Aladdin is literally a liar. Prince Ali is a scam from start to finish. He lies to the princess, lies to the sultan, lies to the whole city. And when Jafar calls him a pathetic street rat, this like it or not, is pure truth. Jafar saw through the deception before everyone else. Soon I will be the most powerful ruler on earth. Yes, the thirst for power is Jafar's downfall, and his methods are cannibalistic. But his main message, that the throne goes not by intelligence and merit, but by birth and a lucky marriage, and that the country is ruled by a person incapable of it, hits the target precisely. Think about it. The only way for a capable but low-born person to get power in Agrabah is the magic of the lamp or marriage to a princess. There are no social ladders. There's only luck. And Jafar is the only one who out loud calls this system broken. And speaking of those who just wanted to survive, let's move from an old fairy tale to the most unexpected corner of the internet. Skibidi scientist. Skibidi toilet. I think new viewers will be a little shocked that we're now going to analyze a toilet face, but don't rush to turn off the video, because in this series all the main characters have the same characteristics as the rest. I'll even say this, the Skibidi scientist's motivation is written better than in some feature-length blockbusters. The Skibidi scientist is the smartest character of this entire universe, a genius engineer, a master of mechanics. The only toilet capable of thinking, inventing, and calculating moves ahead, cold-blooded and gifted. At first glance, the main brain of an army that wants to destroy everyone. But if you dig deeper, everything turns over. What does he really want? Not power, not destruction for the sake of destruction. He wants one thing, for his race to survive. The Skibidi toilets are cornered. They're being methodically exterminated, and he's the only one among them who has enough intelligence and ability to give his people at least some chance to survive. All his genius is directed not at conquering the world, but at the banal, desperate survival of the species. And here's what finally breaks the villain picture. He was ready to cooperate with everyone, even with the opposing side, even with the secret agent, just to find a way out that would preserve his kind. He didn't revel in war. He looked for any path to peace that would leave his race the right to simply exist. Put yourself in his place. You're the last intelligent representative of your species, and on you alone depends whether your people will disappear forever or not. Under the absurd shell of a meme about toilets hides a painfully serious question. Is the one who simply doesn't want his people to die out really a villain? Wolf, Puss in Boots, The Last Wish. He whistles a tune, that's all, just a whistle. And this is perhaps the scariest sound in all of modern animation. A gray wolf with scarlet eyes and two sickles who pursues Puss from the first scene to the last. And then we learn who he really is. This is death itself. And here's why. He's our number one. Because he's not just right, he's the embodiment of that one truth you can't run from. Death came for Puss not by chance and not out of malice. Death came because Puss squandered 8 of his 9 lives. He laughed at danger. He played with his immortality like a toy. He never, not even once, stopped to appreciate what a gift it is. You've lived your lives like they were free. In this lies the whole brilliant concept of the character. Death here isn't a killer. Death here is retribution for arrogance. Its message is simple and merciless. Life has value precisely because it ends. And until Puss understood this, he essentially didn't really live. He just burned through lives one after another. Notice how the film presents him. An ordinary villain wants gold, power, or revenge. And what does Death want? Nothing material. He needs only one thing. For Puss to finally understand the value of what he so thoughtlessly squandered. This isn't a predator's chase after prey. This is a lesson. The harshest lesson in his life. Literally, the last. And the most powerful thing is this. In the finale, Death retreats. Not because he lost in battle, but because Puss finally learned to value his last life, wanted to live, got truly scared, grew up. Death is a villain who won by making the hero better. A villain you can't argue with because he's right. And here's what we come to again. Villains almost never appear out of nowhere. Some weren't loved by their father. Some were thrown out of the house by their parents. Some were written off for a prettier face. Some just desperately tried to save their people, and some were destined to be that truth no one wants to argue with. So next time, when the alarming music plays and a figure in a dark cloak appears on screen, try for a second to listen to what it's saying. Perhaps before you isn't a villain. Perhaps before you is just the one who was first to say out loud the uncomfortable truth. And arguing with the truth, as you know, is useless. If this video gets 10,000 likes, I'll make a part 2. In the meantime, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new videos. This was Super Cameraman. See you all really soon. Bye, everyone.